All right. So, how does Jarvis Thompson apply these categories of decency in order to identify under what conditions abortion is morally permissible and under what conditions abortion is not morally permissible? And the answer to that question is that she doesn't really explain to us how to define and apply these categories. The closest she comes is by saying that if continuing a pregnancy is an imminent threat to a woman's life, she is morally permitted to terminate that pregnancy through abortion and still be considered a minimally decent person. Similarly, if someone terminates a pregnancy that was the result of assault, that person is morally permitted to do it and still be considered a morally decent person. The only other specific instance of abortion that she mentions is she makes the claim that a woman who is in the 7th month of pregnancy and chooses to terminate a pregnancy through abortion because she doesn't want to be pregnant while on vacation, Jarvis Thompson says, is obviously not rising to that level of minimal decency, and she's doing something that's morally impermissible. But she doesn't really explain how she's come to that conclusion or what the particulars are of that circumstance that she believes makes it very obvious that this person is not rising to the level of minimal decency and is doing something that is morally impermissible. So it makes some sense that Jarvis Thompson would leave these categories somewhat undefined and not go to lengths to apply them to all different kinds of cases, because if she really is approaching this issue as an ethical libertarian, she would want us to define these gradations of decency for ourselves and apply them in the way that we think is appropriate. So let's do that, and we'll see if we can get some clarity for ourselves on some of the questions related to the ethics of abortion. So we'll take Jarvis Thompson's example. We have a woman. She's 7 months pregnant. She wants to terminate the pregnancy, and there are two options that are available to her. Option number one is that we can remove the fetus of the baby via birth. She can birth a baby, and if she doesn't want to care for it herself, she can always put the baby up for adoption. Option number two also terminates the pregnancy, but instead of doing so by birthing the child, this would be aborting the fetus, aborting the baby. Okay, so now think about it. You have these two options on the table in front of you. In your judgment, are they both morally permissible? Is one of them morally impermissible? Is one of them morally obligatory? Right? So imagine you have a person that comes to you, it's a friend who says, look, I'm 7 months pregnant. I just don't want to be pregnant anymore. I've changed my mind about this whole kid thing. I think I want to get an abortion, but I want to be a decent person. To be a decent person, should I deliver this fetus baby and put it up for adoption? Or can I still be considered a decent person and get the abortion? How would you respond to that question? Another way to kind of think about this is to imagine this. We probably all regard it as indecent, as not in any way rising to the minimal level of decency, if we decide to kill our 5-year-old child simply because we're sick of having kids. I'm done with this child raising thing. I don't want this kid anymore. I'm just going to go ahead and kill this kid. We all regard that as indecent, right? Well, back up 5 years. Well, what about the day after or the minute after a child is delivered, comes into the world, it's in its little swaddling cloths and it's in its incubator? Are we not rising to the level of minimal decency if we kill that child that's been born? And now what you can do is you can kind of just keep walking this back. Right? All right, well, what about a fetus baby that's gestated for 40 weeks and has not yet been born? Is it morally permissible to terminate that pregnancy via abortion? What about at 9 months, 8 months, 7 months, 6 months? And you could keep walking this back for yourself and say, at what point am I falling into, very obviously, the category of being a splendidly decent person, a minimally decent person, or a decent person? And you can find that line for yourself where you say, you know what, I think it's morally permissible to terminate a pregnancy by abortion at this stage of development for these reasons. And when you find that point, look really carefully at what the particular features are of the situation at that point that causes you to say, I think at this point, you're morally permitted to terminate this pregnancy via abortion. But at this point, whatever that point is, you're not. At this point, if you terminate a pregnancy by abortion, you're falling below that bar of minimal decency. You're not being a good person. And why are you drawing that line where you are?